Hey guys, about 6 months ago, I took the plunge and I deployed this Anker SOLIX E10 system as kind of a whole house hybrid backup power solution. And after working with this for about a full month, at the time, I did a full review video on the system. Now, I also mentioned in that original E10 video that I was going to max out the solar on that system. And since that time, I've actually done that. Now, I've had that maxed out solar input wired in for a few weeks now. And during the course of that time, I've noticed that with my central air starting to kick on a little more frequently, my original 2 battery module configuration, which gives me 12 kilowatt hours of capacity, wasn't quite enough to get me through most nights on battery power alone. And since my goal is to try and run off-grid as much as I can get away with, while still using just a single E10 power module, I recently decided to pull the trigger on 2 additional battery modules. And that doubles my total capacity to 24 kilowatt hours. So in this video, we're going to talk about the realities of how this system has been working for me. We're going to look at some real power consumption and cost data numbers so that maybe you can get just a better sense of whether or not this would be a good solution for you. All right, let's get into it. So there are 2 basic components to the E10 system. There's the E10 power module here on top, and this houses the inverter and the charge controller. And the inverter is a 7.6 kilowatt, 240 volt inverter that's capable of sustaining up to 10 kilowatts of output operating in something they call turbo mode if you happen to be operating in off-grid mode. And it has 2 separate solar inputs here on the side that can take up to 4,500 watts of solar each. So that's a maximum total input of about 9 kilowatts of solar input. And then there are the battery modules. And these you simply stack below the E10 power module, and you can stack up to 5 of these battery modules in each individual stack, giving you a max capacity of up to 30 kilowatt hours. And since their connections are all built into their design, the stack design, you don't have a bunch of massive cables sticking out connecting all these batteries together. And for scalability, you can connect up to 3 of these E10 systems together for a total max power output of up to 30 kilowatts if you really need it, and a max battery capacity in that case of up to 90 kilowatt hours. But as you'll see, even with just a single E10 system like I've got here, that still enables you to easily move 80% or more of your home's power consumption off the grid. And the beauty of this E10 system is that it is super simple to deploy, and it does not require a bunch of permits and frustrating and time-consuming interconnect approvals with your local utility company. Now, as I mentioned, I did go all in on the solar part of this solution, and I installed that large solar array in my backyard. In fact, I've actually added a bit more solar than this single E10 system can fully utilize. But in any case, you might be assuming that on a super cloudy or rainy day, that solar production is pretty much useless. But you might be surprised if I pop up the Anker SOLIX app here for you, that there's a clip here that I'm going to show you that's from a very overcast and somewhat rainy day. But you can see that I was still producing more power even on that rainy day than my house was currently using. And the system was still being able to charge the batteries with the excess solar that I was producing. And the reason that it's able to do that is largely because how I have overpaneled this E10 system. And by the way, overpaneling is just a simple term to describe when you connect more solar power potential than the charge controller of your system can fully utilize. And in my case, I've connected around 14.5 kilowatt hours to this single E10 system, which can only really fully utilize up to 9 kilowatts, as I said. Now, why would you do that? Well, there's 2 reasons really. On cloudy days, like I showed you in that screenshot there, when the sun is not all that cooperative, I'm still producing significantly more power than I would if I just had connected up the max 9 kilowatt system spec. And then number 2, in full sun like this, I'm actually able to reach that max 9 kilowatts of power input earlier in the day and for longer duration throughout the day, ensuring that I'm maximizing the E10's capabilities, even if I'm not maximizing the solar panels' capabilities. Because the truth is that solar panels are relatively cheap, whereas inverter and battery capacity are relatively expensive. So overpaneling is definitely the most cost-efficient way to get the most out of your system. So for example, a common rule of thumb for solar power production is to take the rated power output of your solar panel configuration and then multiply it by a factor of maybe 4 or 5, with 4 probably being the better multiplier for winter calculations and 5 being better for summer calculations. So if we take my single E10 system as an example, and I just maybe connected the max spec of 9 kilowatts of solar, if I multiply 9 by 5, I think that's a pretty fair estimate for summertime. I would expect that I could generate about 45 kilowatt hours of power during the course of a full day of good sun conditions. But check this out. You can see here on the Anker SOLIX mobile app that on a day when I got actually pretty good sun conditions, even now during early spring, I actually generated nearly 72 kilowatt hours. And that's because I'm using an overpaneled configuration. And you can clearly see that big flat top on the top of the plot right at that 9 kilowatt mark in the middle of the day. And that's what's called clipping. So what's basically happening here is that I've maxed out the E10's solar input capability when technically my panels would have been producing more than 9 kilowatts at that time if the E10's charge controller could handle it. But it can't, so that's why I'm clipping. But I'm completely fine with that clipping because I'm already frequently getting more solar than I can actually use. And on days when the sun exposure is not ideal, I'm still typically producing more than enough power to keep my house pretty much mostly off grid. Now, why do I say mostly off grid? Well, that's because there are times when my total house power demand is more than the 7.6 kilowatts that the E10 can deliver. So for example, let's say that my central AC is running, which is about 3.5 kilowatts. And then let's say the electric water heater kicks on, which is another 5.5 kilowatts. So along with the other miscellaneous loads around the house, suddenly the total house demand is around 10 kilowatts, or maybe even a little bit more. And in this case, you might think, uh-oh, the E10's overload protection is going to have to trip and everything's going to get shut down. But that's not actually what happens. And this is the beauty of how Anker SOLIX has engineered this system. So when you're operating in on-grid mode, the E10 is constantly monitoring my total home power demand. And if that demand exceeds 7.6 kilowatts, which is the limit of the E10's inverter, it will simply pull the excess demand right off the grid automatically. So for a short period where my house might actually need 10 kilowatts, the E10 is only going to be pulling 2.4 kilowatts from the grid, and it's only going to do that for as long as is necessary until the house load drops back below that 7.6 kilowatt mark. And so while this does occasionally occur, it's only for very short durations and it doesn't really cost me much at all. But all the power my house might need is always there when I need it one way or another. It's just seamless and I pretty much never have to worry about it. So the E10 takes care of it for me automatically, just minimizing, or as is the case most of the time, nearly eliminating my consumption off of the grid power. So just take a look at this plot again on the Anker SOLIX app that shows my daily consumption of grid power, and you can see how my grid consumption drops off a cliff right around April 21st, which is coincidentally when I brought my new solar array online. And then it drops off a little bit further, actually a lot further, to pretty much nothing after May 2nd when I added those 2 extra battery modules that increased my total battery capacity to 24 kilowatt hours. So from here on out, I'm basically using somewhere of around 1 kilowatt hour or much less of grid power, which effectively means I'm pretty much just going to be billed the minimum connection fee that everyone who's connected to the grid has to pay. And as I said, this is all while operating in on-grid mode. But there is actually an off-grid mode for the E10 system as well. And in my case, I'm using the inexpensive Anker SOLIX Smart Inlet Box, which means that I have to, in a grid outage situation, manually come down here, flip the main breaker so that I can lift the interlock and turn on the off-grid breaker over here, which activates off-grid mode, which prevents the E10 system from backfeeding to the grid, which is a code requirement. Now, they do have an automatic option called the power dock, which handles this switch over to off-grid mode completely automatically without any intervention on your part. And it does offer some additional functionality allowing you to prioritize some specific circuits in your house that you want to make sure are fully energized in a grid down situation. So the power dock does give you some additional functionality and some additional automation. It's a little more involved for the electrician install, whereas the Smart Inlet Box, in my case, was super easy to install, took an electrician less than an hour to do it, and it's, like I said, quite inexpensive. But in off-grid mode, take that same scenario where the house load suddenly jumps to 10 kilowatts. Since I'm off grid, the E10 can't simply pull the extra 2.4 kilowatts from the grid. So instead of tripping overload protection and shutting everything down, the E10's turbo mode kicks in, where it can actually provide up to 10 kilowatts for over an hour at a time. Now, of course, if the total home load does exceed 10 kilowatts, or does so for more than an hour, it will trip the overload protection and the E10 will shut itself down to protect itself. But for the majority of home use cases, an overload trip is actually pretty unlikely, even in off-grid mode. And of course, you can proactively mitigate an overload entirely by just simply being a bit more careful about what loads you're activating during an extended grid power outage, which is something you'd probably be doing anyway. So the operational design of this E10 system is extremely well engineered for maximum functionality and minimum user interaction. All right, before we wrap up, let's real quick go over the economics of the specific system that I'm using and the solar array configuration that I'm using as I've got it configured, so that we can estimate both the upfront costs as well as the break-even period. So with a single E10 and the 4 battery modules, the upfront cost is currently $10,699. And for I would say an average pallet of solar panels in that 450 watt range from Signature Solar, you're looking at about another $5,000. And in my case, I'm using the more expensive ground mount option since I do have plenty of space for it. And that is just under $6,000 if you choose to install it yourself like I did. Now you want to probably add in another $1,000 for cables, connectors, disconnect boxes, combiner boxes, and stuff like that. And the total upfront cost is about $22,679. And yeah, that's a significant expense no matter how you slice it, but it's also a fraction of what those guys who show up on your doorstep trying to sell you a solar solution want to charge you. All right, now let's calculate some of the savings. So I'm going to use some conservative numbers just to try and keep it real. So my annual electric bills for 2025 added up to about $3,800. And as we all know, our electric rates just keep going up every year, actually to the tune of about 4% a year for the past several years. So if I were to project those increases forward, say over the next 7 years, my adjusted annual electric bills without the E10 or the solar investments, those would add up to, on average, about $4,400. And if I would assume that I got an 80% minimum savings rate, which I think is actually a bit conservative, as I said, I can expect to save about $3,567 annually on my electric bill. So dividing that $22,679 E10 and solar investment by that annual savings of $3,567, I get about 6.4 years before my system has fully paid for itself. And every month after that, the roughly $300 that I'm spending on electricity goes right into my pocket, not the utilities pocket. Oh, and if, by the way, you get the roof mount for solar, if you go that route instead of the ground mount like I did, that would knock off around $4,000 from the total system price, which would then shorten the payback period to only about 5.2 years. So if you're like me and you're tired of making the equivalent of a car payment to the utility company for the rest of your life every month, I think this E10 system and a solar array will definitely resolve that issue for you, and it'll do so in fairly short order. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a real sense of what it's like living with this E10 system. It's just super easy to deploy, and you can do that either inside the house like I've done it or outside the house, since the whole system is IP66 weatherproof, extremely well built, and also extremely scalable if you ever want to add capacity. Now, in truth, it's pretty rare that I can say that I'm 100% satisfied with a major purchase like this, but in this case, that is a 100% true statement. It all just works, and it works well. So it's 2 thumbs up. And per usual, I will put links to both the E10 system from Anker SOLIX, as well as the solar options from Signature Solar, where I bought all of my solar racking and solar panels. I'll put that all down in the description below if you do want to go check those out for yourself. And if you do have any lingering questions about my setup, feel free to leave those down in the comments section below, and I will do my best to try and answer those questions for you. Okay, I think that's a wrap. If you found the video helpful at all, please do me a small favor. Click that like button down below for me if you think I've earned it. Very much appreciate that. And thanks for spending some of your valuable time with me today on this video. I do hope you'll come back soon and join me for the next one. Until then, have fun out there.